Hey everybody, Last Cat Badger here. Before I jump into it, 70% of y'all are still not subscribed, but you keep coming back to the channel. All I can tell you to do is subscribe, like, and share. And then there's a button right next to it, next to that red and white button down there that you just clicked. It says join the channel. When you join the channel, there's a super low tier that I put it at. And that helps to logistically support the channel. So, if you feel generous and a decent human being, then please join the channel. And that would help us out considerably. So, that being said, let's jump into this video. So, Azil, again, something I missed from his channel. He died and came back to life. Here's what he saw in other stories. Interesting. Let's see what's going on.
Some of the best moments of my life, they never fucking happened.
Eventually, the anti-revolutionary movement was able to get him out by straight up breaking him out of prison.
They ran a brain scan and they found it, but they didn't think it was cancerous. Boy, were they wrong.
But before we get into the story time, this video is brought to you by World of Warships, baby! Let's go! World of Warships is a free-to-play game available for PC where you engage in team-based tactical sea battles with over 400 historical ships to choose from. These battles take place in massive, unique, living landscapes with stunning graphics and real-time weather, with over 44 million 7 days of premium access.
One thing that... I guess this is like funny. That's what I guess it is. Like, people like pick all these weird and random avatars. Just how they feel about picking stuff. At least that's what I assume. Are you assigned an avatar or something? Is it just given to you and then you can change it later or something like that? I'll have to get into VR chat at some point and see what's up.
And let's get on to the story time.
What we're here to talk about today is the time I had the seizure that technically killed me. So, starting off, I was around, I believe, 6 or 7 at the time. It was around when the swine flu was just absolutely fucking ravaging the States. And so, my mom, who is a nurse, decided to take me to get me and my brothers the shot. So, what we did was, we went in, my brother got his shot, and then my other brother got his shot, and because I was always nervous when it comes to needles. So they finally settled me down enough to get the injection in. It seemed fine at first. It was like perfectly normal. And then I started feeling wobbly and woozy, and then out of nowhere it just went black, like completely. A lot of people don't understand that death, whenever somebody sees it, it's different for everybody. But for me, it was just a complete black, empty void where I could hear, see, just nothing. And honestly, it terrifies me to this day even. And when I woke up, I ended up in, I believe it was Peyton Manning Hospital in Indianapolis, which was around 3 hours from where I was originally at, I think. Shit. So this is where it gets kind of complex, because there is what I remembered as to what actually happened. Because when I had the seizure, I don't remember much of it, because whenever you have a seizure, your nerves or brain cells, it's one of them, just completely fry, and it just fucks with your head. So what actually ended up happening is much less eventful. I went to the hospital for 2 days and I was completely irresponsive. They had to feed me just manually and everything until about the last few hours. But how I remember it was a complete 2 months. And apparently I was in a freaking coma or dream type state because my aunt didn't show up, which is what I thought actually happened. I thought my aunt showed up with a bunch of gifts and everything, with a bunch of family, hoping that I feel better and everything. And I have a feeling that state of mind was my brain recovering from coding, which I should have explained beforehand. Coding is a technical, just fancy way of saying, yeah, this person has technically died, but came back or some shit like that. It's really, really complex, and it would take me about 35 minutes to explain. But whoop-de-doo. I was basically in a dream state for 2 days, and those 2 days felt like an entire 2-month time period of just like some of the best moments of my life. And what's crazy to think about is that they never fucking happened. I thought I saw my grandpa, who apparently was dead and I didn't know, but yeah, I saw my dead grandpa and apparently he came back and all this stuff. And when I figured out that it didn't actually happen, it fucking devastated me. Like, I told mom about the entire thing on the car ride home, and she just like looked at me like I was fucking insane or something like that, because she doesn't remember any of this, and she was the only person allowed to be at my side during that entire time I was in the hospital. Knowing that I was just on what could have been my deathbed, because my body was still very, very vulnerable and weak after having that shot, because it turns out the whole catalyst of the seizure that nearly killed me was the flu shot. I'm deathly allergic to it. And so when they injected it, it just put my body on the brink and then passed it. So yeah, that's the story of how I died and came back, basically. From what I know, they used defibrillators, I think they're called, to bring me back, I think. But I'm not sure, and I'm not going to be like 100% on that. But yeah, if you have any questions about it, I'll do my best to answer, but it's really hard to remember, so take it with a pinch of salt.
Do you know how...
Certain parts of this are understandable. You know, if you're someone who has pretty intense dreams, it sounds very similar, where you're asleep and you can dream up this entire world inside your own head. Or who knows what else it is, what else it could be. But you dream up an entire world in your head, and time is stretched really far out. I've had dreams kind of like that, but not as serious. And nightmares as well. And that's understandable. But damn, this all happened literally directly after the shot. Like, damn. Damn. That's scary. That's real scary. No wonder why so many people are afraid of the jab.
Know how rare vaccine allergies like that are?
No, I don't. I've actually never thought about that, but I'm assuming it's pretty frickin' rare as to be.
Note, the odds of having a dangerous allergic reaction to a vaccine is about 1 in 760,000. Damn, son. So 1 out of 760,000. Actually, that's a lot of people. Whoa. That's a lot of people. I mean, it's still rare, yeah, but that's still a huge amount of people. Think about it. There's what, 300, there's like 330 million people in the United States. That's still a lot of people. But that's scary.
Deathly allergic to something that is essentially a dead version in a vial. Because I've gotten the flu before. We found out that if I get the flu, I'm heavily hit by it. But I never got a flu shot before the swine flu one. And that was the last one I had. And that was when I was, I think, 6. And that would be 12 years ago. It's not the scariest moment of my life, I will admit that, but it's definitely one I will never forget.
About like, I think it was 40 years ago.
That is something else. Huh. Huh. You know, remembering like the swine flu and all that stuff. Why are we treating the newest like disease so differently? Why are we treating it so differently?
Ago. My grandfather, basically, he came back from Cuba, and this is about to be about a story, basically about him getting tortured and the Cuban Revolution. And the reason why I'm sharing it is because communist countries, a lot of people don't know this, but they don't like to share information. And you only get this information from first or third party people that actually have experienced it in their family. So I'm kind of bringing this information to you guys to get a little more educated. Yeah, so my
Listen well, you want to be socialists, communists, fascists, whatever. Listen carefully. Oh wait, I forgot. They don't care. Because they want to be the ones doing this to people, not the ones that it happens to. Make sure y'all remember that difference.
My grandfather was born in Cuba, and he was there for about, I think, 20-something years. And the education system in Cuba works as they tell you what you are. So he became a math teacher because that's what the government wanted. After that, Batista, which was the current ruler of Cuba, he was kind of an asshole, so everybody hated him. And then this new up-and-comer in politics, his name was Fidel Castro, might ring a bell. He told everybody that he can save Cuba by becoming a democratic leader and helped all the people get rid of Batista, which everybody was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna be part of the revolution. Sounds dope. So everybody joined up. They fought, and Fidel Castro won. Now, my grandfather was one of Fidel Castro's like second-hand men, like a lieutenant in his army. And right after Castro won, my grandfather was speaking to him, and he announced to the public he was no longer a democratic leader, that he was here to stay as a dictator, and no one could do anything about it because all of the Cuban people had previously given their guns to Castro because they thought they didn't need it anymore since all their problems were solved. When in reality, it
sound very familiar? Whoever wants to take away all the weapons of self-defense from the people, I guarantee you every single one of them is a wannabe dictator. Every single one. Anti-gunners included. They'd be the first ones to use guns to take guns and mow down those who refuse. Change my mind.
It was always a snatch and grab kind of deal. So then my grandfather immediately decided that he was going to switch sides. So he was for Castro, and then he was like, nah, psych, bitch, I'm going against you. So he started to fight, and the anti-revolution was born. Like literally weeks after Castro took over, there was an anti-revolutionary team. But the government was so corrupt at that point that everybody was forced to kind of follow. So this anti-revolution was very deep underground. No one knew what it was about. So a few stories I want to share. So the first thing is the first time my grandfather's first job as part of the anti-revolution. So he was supposed to hand out these pamphlets, and these pamphlets were a bunch of news and information that the government considered illegal. His car, the trunk of the vehicle they were driving, was full of thousands of copies of these pamphlets. And he's driving with a fellow anti-revolutionary, and they get stopped by an officer. Now, the police, the government, everything in Cuba, there's no such thing as Miranda rights over there. There is, if I feel like I need to kill you as a police officer, well, guess what? You're dead. So if that officer had opened the trunk of their car, I would not be here. But just kind of a spoiler that I'm here. So yeah, eventually the officer, knocked on the window, said, hey, can you roll it down? And, Cuba, there's not many cars, so it was very rare to see a car. He did the little, the roll down the window. And then his friendly in the anti-revolutionary movement started talking to the officer, like if there was nothing wrong. And then they had coffee with the officer, with the thousands of pamphlets in the fucking trunk of the car that could get them killed in 2 seconds. So they had coffee, and then the cop let him go. That was his first job, right? And there was many after that. But eventually, like every anti-revolutionary movement, they got caught. And my grandfather, since he was very valuable to the anti-revolutionaries, since he had valuable intel on Castro's military, basically was not killed in their Alcatraz-like prison, which was an island off the coast. I don't know exactly how far, but it was basically like Alcatraz, pretty far from the mainland. And he was tortured there for a few weeks. Eventually, the anti-revolutionary movement was able to get him out by straight up breaking him out of prison and drugging some officers because he had valuable intel. So my grandfather was kind of smart. He didn't leak everything to the anti-revolutionary movement at one go. He kept some stuff stuff so that he wouldn't get killed by them. Because, you know, once a killer, always a killer. So what happened is he got out and then he realized that he can't really save Cuba, that it's too far gone. So he escaped and he left to, I think it was Spain. I don't remember which country. And then from there, he came to the US, not legally, but he came to the US. And then he slowly started to adapt to the life here because it's very tough to go from being constantly in fear to the US where it's not, you know, we take a lot of things for granted here. Cuba, there's no running water. The hospitals are literal garbage. Like you would get an infection from stepping in a hospital. At least here, you know, we have protocols, but there, no running water. Like I said before, no plumbing, nothing. So from going to that to a lot of luxury that we take for granted, it was a shocker. He slowly started to adapt and then little by little, he kind of got over it. Not really. He told me the story so that I could pass it on like I'm doing now. But yeah, so any information that you guys see on the web about any form of country that's not open to the public or is under dictatorial rule, you might want to check first sources before you actually believe all that shit because half of it's lies. Personally, my father, he was born in Cuba until he was 12. And then all of the stuff he learned in Cuba in the school system was lies. When he came to the US to learn actual history, he had to relearn basic information, like basically about, I think it was Christopher Columbus. So Christopher Columbus did not exist in his brain. Simple stuff that you learn as a kid didn't exist in Cuba's history books because they want to hide the truth to control the people. So yeah.
If you have very ignorant people who believe everything that you tell them, you can control them very easily. Very incredibly easily. And ignorant people who have no critical thinking skill, no knowledge of the actual reality, and, you know, are basically like sheep. There's no better way to put it. Sheep or NPCs, non-player characters in a game. Actually, that's even a better one, because a non-player character in a game doesn't have any knowledge outside of what its programming is. None whatsoever. It just does what it's programmed and that's it. That's as far as it goes. That's what they do in every socialist country, every communist country, pretty much any place that's controlled by tyranny. That's what they do to the populace. They disarm them and make sure the next few generations are NPCs. That's exactly what they do. And anyone who wants that kind of stuff, communism, socialism, whatever, what's funny is that they would do the revolution and they would be the first ones to be put in the gulag or to be executed or to be gotten rid of somehow, disappeared, so that nobody knows how to take down the revolution.
Believe everything you read online. That's basically everything.
Facts.
My name is Jack, and I was diagnosed with an anaplastic astrocytoma grade 3 at 18. So yeah, it pretty much took away a big part of my teenage years, or I guess not one teenage year. But yeah, so it was found on December 17th when I was headed to do a job for my mom, just drop off something from the store. And I was almost there, and I started getting this weird feeling, like it didn't feel right. I was running out of breath. It was scary. So I decided to pull over into this abandoned gas station. It's just an old sheet metal building, and I slowed down enough. I looked like I was gonna be sick, and my sister absolutely hates that. She has like this phobia of it. So she gets out of this still moving car. It's kind of a low speed so she could like safely do it. But as soon as she closed the door, I guess I started seizing and my foot slipped off the brake pedal and onto the gas pedal. And I went flying forward into the side of this building. I hit the foundation. If it was a little higher, I would have probably gone all the way through. It wasn't very well insulated. So yeah, they tried to wake me up. I was as pale as I possibly could have been. I was unresponsive and not breathing. So when I finally did wake up, I find out that I've been seizing and like I've been in an accident. And the first thing I do is I ask where my sister is. I've heard that like I kind of tilted my head back and went to sleep again, and like the whole thing restarted like 4 or 5 times.
Oof. Bub, that sucks. Oh man, that sucks. If he had hit something else at a greater speed, he would not be here today. Probably not. Oh man. But he survived. Well, he survived again because he's still here. But
And I guess that's what happens when you don't have enough oxygen to your brain. It just resets like that. When they finally got me to the hospital, they ran a brain scan and they found it, but they didn't think it was cancerous. Boy, were they wrong. So yeah, we called up to like this place in Memphis, and this Dr. Klimo, got us back like on Christmas Eve. He called us and he pretty much told us to like pack our bags and get ready to go. So we were up there, I think maybe the day of or day after Christmas. I can't remember that much. And yeah, we drove up on December 28th and we were admitted then. It took a few days, but on December 9th, I finally had the surgery. And immediately after the surgery, I was laughing and I was joking around with the staff. They noticed this huge difference in me that I didn't at all even notice for myself, you know, because I just kind of thought that all of it was my normal behavior. So it's kind of strange. But yeah, so after that I was discharged home on December 31st and I had another, I forget what they're called, but it's like a localized seizure. I've had them for like about 3 months post-surgery and I didn't know what they were. Everyone just thought that, oh yeah, we all kind of forget words. But what I was going through was completely different. I couldn't understand English, I couldn't interpret that or music. None of it made sense to me. And I would just laugh as a response because that's the only thing I could do. Like, it's weird. So after the surgery, I guess what happened was the pressure built up in my head to the point where like it produced another like energy and it just affected me that way. I haven't had one since though. I took 2 doses of chemo before February 14th, and the day of February 14th I was in the hospital again for a really bad drug reaction. But yeah, so it's pretty rough. My final
Bub, just bad luck after bad luck after bad luck. I'm amazed he's still here. You know what? I'll put it up to, the will to live. That's what I'll put it up to. Because he's gone through all of this and he still seems kind of, I guess, maybe, like, I guess you would say a bit jovial? Maybe?
final radiation was on March 16th, and I was discharged, I think, that day from St. Jude's Hospital. Yeah, so I got to go home and see my family, and it's really nice. I took a small road trip to Virginia, and I started chemo on, I think it was June, maybe, and I took a few doses of that before I had another super bad reaction to it, and it was worse than before. I was sleeping a lot, but my skin also started to peel away, and it was horrible and disgusting. It was really bad. I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything about it, so we stopped taking those, and finally that was the last thing that I had to go through before I was completely okay. And yeah, so as of right now I am at least 6 months cancer free, I think. Oh no, that's pretty much my entire story. Yeah, thanks.
Well, congrats, man. Congrats. You got through it. You got through it, you survived, and now you're able to live out the rest of your life. Congrats, man. Alright, there we go, folks. There we go. From Azael. He died and came back to life. Here's what he saw and other stories. Bub. I kind of like these. Oh, excuse me. Kind of like these. But what do y'all think? What do y'all think? Y'all let me know in the comments down below. Alright. Y'all know what time it is. You like Azael? You like what he does? You like the stories he compiles? You like my reaction to him? Then please, like, share, comment, or subscribe. Then hit the real subscribe button called the notification bell so you get videos when I post them up. Comment down below which I'm going to cover next if you're a member of the channel. Thank you very much. If you have clicked that join button and joined a tier, I greatly appreciate it. That way I don't have to put a million ads on every other video I ever do. Because I hate ads myself. So yeah, please help me avoid that. And then on top of that, jump into the Discord. That's where you can request videos directly, and you can put links in the Discord for me to watch. And that being said, be good. Seriously, be good. Be good. Be safe. Don't compromise safety and security. Just don't do it. And make a good life for yourselves. And I will see y'all in the next video.